we interrupt our regular program schedule to bring you a special report from ABC News.
I'm Ted Koppel. There has been a rather strong earthquake in Northern California, so strong, in fact, that it has, among other things, knocked out all the power, or much of the power, at Candlestick Park, where the third game of the World Series was being played. But in the overall scheme of things, that may be the very least of things that has happened today. You can see some video there. I gather that's live video of Candlestick Park.
And we are feeling a shock right now, and that shaking in your picture is being amplified by the tremor that has just gone through the top of the stadium, and we are live. They're taking the bases off, 8:41 Eastern, 5:41, and we just felt it out here. We're at ground level.
This is a live shot from our affiliate, our owned and operated station in San Francisco, KGO, and you can see that there are at least two major fires that seem to be in progress there. Let me just explain to you that what we're doing here is we are listening in on the broadcast of our affiliate in San Francisco, KGO, because a great deal of the information that is coming is more readily accessible to them than it is to us, and they have reporters reporting live from around the entire Bay Area region.
It's been a frightening scene here. As you can see, just below me is where this crack in the Bay Bridge occurred, a 50-foot section. You see down there below the two cars that were on the upper deck when the bridge collapsed. They fell below.
You can see the fire down past me. What has happened is that the natural gas lines have ruptured, and that is what has caused that fire. The water lines have ruptured. There is no water coming out of the fire hydrants. People are running into this building that Randy's now showing you, and they are looking for people. They're asking for people to come by. They're saying that people are still trapped in there. We were down at number 2 Cervantes. Another building like this one had collapsed. I had 2 deaths confirmed there.
We'll go back to the Marina District. As we told you earlier, this is obviously an area that has been very hard hit. Fire crews coming into this inferno as apartment buildings collapsed. Remember, the Marina District was filled for is landfill, and therefore a number of the very expensive apartments and townhouses in this area have collapsed, fire burning unchecked. They're trying, it's been very difficult. There have been some injuries, it appears, perhaps more panic than anything else as they try to evacuate them from the homes, but the fire burns on. Again, you see the Marina District, the Jefferson Divisadero area where these very expensive buildings have collapsed, and the fire continues as the San Francisco Fire Department tries to fight it. This was a 4-story building, and that's the kind of problem. They are trying to evacuate people who may have been inside. A lot of people at home at that time or during the commute hour as the earthquake struck at 5:04 this afternoon in Northern California. We have an unofficial word, or it perhaps is official now, 7 people, we know 7 people have died in this crash, including the one, or in this quake rather, including the one when an old building south of Market collapsed on people in automobiles. And there is one other death, too, perhaps one on the Bay Bridge when that section of it collapsed. But here trying to get people out of their homes, some injuries, perhaps just panic as well. And this, if it indeed is the big one that we've heard so much about, and people trying to do whatever they can to stop the fire, but part of the problem, obviously, is gas.
Store water, prepare for aftershocks, prepare for 3 days of no services. You got 90 minutes of light left. You better make use of your time. Standing here ain't doing nothing.
We have Leslie Brinkley standing by live right now. Leslie, go ahead.
It's looking bad over here in Oakland. The electricity is out in much of the city, and we have a bad freeway collapse. It's that ramp of the Nimitz Freeway that goes from Cypress Street on up to the Bay Bridge. About a 6 or 7 block stretch of it collapsed during the earthquake. They are pulling bodies out from underneath this lower ramp. There were just some injuries on the upper ramp, but those on the lower ramp, there are a lot of fatalities.
The epicenter of this earthquake is about 100 miles to the south in the Santa Cruz Mountains along the San Andreas Fault. We have had very difficult time getting any information out of that area tonight. Now our own Tony Russomano is live in Santa Cruz now to give us some notion of what's happened. This is our first report from there. Tony?
Pete, this town of 40,000 is about 10 miles from the epicenter of the earthquake. You would expect the damage to be severe here, and it is. The downtown section of Santa Cruz is basically gone. All the old brick Unreinforced buildings have collapsed. This is a department store called Ford's. It collapsed. The second story came down into the first floor, trapping several people inside. At least 3 people are known to have died here on the mall, perhaps 12 to 14 total in Santa Cruz. Authorities do not have a final fatality figure. Many other people are injured. Power has been out for several hours. The local power company says we should expect power to be out here for 3 days at least.
It is almost 24 hours, 20 hours precisely at the moment, since that earthquake, 0.7 or 7 on the Richter scale, struck. It's very difficult as you look all across this part of California at the moment, up and down the San Andreas Fault, to figure out what is going on. But there is the worst disaster. That is Highway 880, the Nimitz Freeway on the Oakland side of the bay. 253 people, they estimate, died there when that top section of the roadway pancaked onto the bottom section, crushing people in their cars. There have been some heroic stories of people attempting to rescue those trapped inside, but most people didn't have a chance.
This section was built in the 1950s before its concrete columns would have been reinforced with steel. Its road surface had been reinforced after a much smaller earthquake did minor damage some years ago. But a second phase of refitting the highway, wrapping its columns in steel, was not done, even though the road is heavily traveled. It was not considered a high enough priority, and the money was never authorized.